I'd probably have worn that one out.
I don't think that joke has much shelf life. That's getting to be the, if it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium of this convention.
Well, we'll be back with more about Dan Quayle and anticipating the speech here tonight of George Herbert Walker Bush running for the second term of President of the United States right after this.
Decision 92, the Republican National Convention, is being sponsored in part by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? It's more than a question, it's an answer.
A real sports coupe is more than fancy technology. It's the perfect balance between the needs of a driver and the needs of a curve. With a pure, focused performance that makes even the same old road seem new. Because it's not the road you take, it's how you take the road. The all-new 24-valve Ford Probe GT. Have you driven a Ford lately?
I caught you doing 70.
Color Tile store-wide summer clearance is almost over. This is for 50% off.
Vinyl tile, half price.
Ceramic tile, half price.
Mini blinds, buy one, get three free.
Wall covering $2.99. DuPont Stainmaster carpet up to 50% off.
Oh, wood floors up to 50% off.
Last chance.
Up to 50% off ceramic tile.
Vinyl floors.
And Stainmaster carpet.
Color Tile store-wide summer clearance.
Final week.
Coast to coast. Save up to 50%.
Sale ends Monday.
Either you give your customers reliable service or somebody else will.
We chose AT&T because our 800 service is our front door. If it shuts down, we shut down.
AT&T has the most reliable 800 service. It's guaranteed by the 800 assurance policy, and it's designed so that more calls get through.
To us, a single 800 call could be worth thousands of dollars.
When you consider that every call is a customer, why would you want anything less than AT&T?
AT&T 800 service, because every call is a customer.
We're back at the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, the site of the Republican National Convention, the concluding night. The climactic moment is about to be with us. That is the appearance here of President Bush in the speech that even his friends and neighbors are now describing the most important speech of his political life. They did try to dampen the expectations some last night, but they have been overrun, frankly, by the need for the president to make a very strong appearance here tonight to continue the momentum that, quite candidly, has been developed here in this hall throughout this week. And according to the polls that have been taken around the country, a quick snapshot of how America has been responding, it does appear that Bill Clinton's lead has been narrowed somehow, much we cannot say at this time. George Bush will be speaking here. There's the tape of George Bush arriving here tonight. He's already in the hall. That's his son, Jeb, his wife. They're from South Florida. They're very active in the Hispanic community there. And it was their son who appeared here last night, George P. Bush, who ended up saying, "Viva Bush." So that's an important part of the Republican Party strategy for the fall, is to do well among the Hispanic voters. George Bush has trouble with the language from time to time. He will not have that trouble tonight, my guess is, but he has said in the past, among other things, "I have opinions of my own, strong opinions, but I don't always agree with them." Well, let's see what his opinions may be tonight in the speech. Tim Russert is down on the floor now. He's been talking with some of the speech crafters and other people around him. Tim?
Tom, what the Bush people are telling me is that the American people believe George Bush is a capable man. What he has to demonstrate tonight is that he is interested in applying those talents to the domestic agenda. He's going to first start out by talking about Governor Clinton's lack of military service and foreign policy experience. Move quickly into comments about the Democratic-controlled Congress and the risk of having both a president and Congress of the Democratic Party, and then move very quickly into what he is his domestic and economic agenda. I must tell you, Tom, reading through the speech, there's not much new here. He's going to call for tax cut only if they're offset by spending cuts. He wants a constitutional amendment to balance budget, a line-item veto. Many of the things he's tried to get unsuccessfully.
All right, thanks very much, Tim Russert. One of the president's most outspoken and faithful advisors and proponents is with Maria Shriver right now. He carries the same name as the President of the United States. Maria?
That's right, George Bush, but not Junior.
Right.
Welcome. Let me ask you, everybody's saying your father needs to redefine himself, reconnect with this audience tonight. What's he going to do that?
Well, part of us just show up as a fighter and a warrior for what he believes. For 9 months, he's taken a pretty harsh pounding from press and people running against him, and now he's got to come and be a candidate, and he will.
You've spoken to him today. Yesterday he said he's got butterflies. How nervous is he about this speech?
He didn't seem too nervous to me, but listening to Bob Dole, but I think he's confident. He's given a lot of big speeches in his day. You know, he had the Ferraro debate, which was a lot of pressure. He had his 88 convention speech.
This is being called the speech of his life.
You know, somebody said, are you going to win an election on a speech? And the answer is no, because the election day is not tomorrow. You've got 70-day campaign. I don't think he views it that way. I think he views it as the time to engage as a candidate. But if people want to say it's the speech of his life, they're welcome to do it. He doesn't feel that.
Many people in your father's campaign that I've spoken with say that this is the most formidable opponent he's ever faced. You just told me before we went on you've never been more confident. You don't agree?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, I'm saying if Bill Clinton's more formidable than Michael Dukakis, that's not saying much. And secondly, we'll see. I mean, this is a long campaign. Lead seems to be eroding right now in the polls, whatever that means. And I just know this, that when you compare George Bush, his heart, backbone, courage, experience, and what he believes compared to Bill Clinton, I think it's a winner. George Bush is a winner.
But why haven't people gotten that sense? Your father's been in office for 4 years.
Let us finish.
But he's been in office for 4 years. They still don't seem to know what he stands for. How's he going to change that?
You watch this. Just tell them to stay tuned to the convention speech, and I feel very confident that they'll know where he stands. They knew where he stood a year ago. A recession comes, which is not good for an incumbent, I admit, and an anti-Washington feeling where it's much easier to blame the president than the Congress, and he will address that tonight. And I think the American people hopefully watch, and then they'll see what I'm saying.
Thank you very much. George
Maria,
Bush.
thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Maria. George W. Bush, who is a Texan. He's a part owner of the Texas Rangers. He was a fighter pilot in the National Guard here. He has an uncanny physical resemblance to his father. And when there are reports of trouble in the White House, he very quickly gets on a plane and goes from Texas to the White House and paces the corridors, and he finds out the truth, and then he shares with the president what he has found out, and he very often offers him some unalloyed advice about what he ought to do about it. That's part of what happened to John Sununu, frankly. We'll be back with more after this.
For the Fergusons, just going to the store can be quite an adventure.
Hello? Oh, hi.
The incredibly civilized Ford Explorer. The overwhelming choice of Explorers everywhere.
I caught you doing 70.
Color Tile store-wide summer clearance is almost over. There's up to 50% off.
Vinyl tile, half price.
Ceramic tile, half price.
Mini blinds, buy one, get three free.
Wall covering $2.99. Deluxe Stainmaster carpet up to 50% off.
Oh, wood floors up to 50% off.
Last chance.
Up to 50% off ceramic tile.
Vinyl floors.
And Stainmaster carpet.
Color Tile store-wide summer clearance.
Final week.
Coast to coast.
Save up to 50%.
Sale ends Monday.
Dad, you're going to be late for work. And you're not to leave this house without breakfast.
Oh, and who does that sound like?
Hey, I'm just doing what Mom told me.
Enjoying your position of authority, huh?
Don't you?
Give your family all the nutrition of a complete meal with Carnation Instant Breakfast.
Don't suppose your mother told you which tie I should wear?
No, just the part about a good breakfast. Oh, Dad. Not that one.
Carnation Instant Breakfast, because life doesn't stop for breakfast.
How's this?
Hi, Dad.
Oh, hi, you guys. Jay Leno getting ready for tonight's live Tonight Show. We just watched Dan Quayle, and he didn't screw up. What am I supposed to do for monologue? How am I supposed to make jokes? Am I in trouble? Watch tonight with Kate Jackson, Yolanda Adams, and Sue Grafton tonight on The Tonight Show. Well, maybe Bush will screw up, and I can make fun of that. Watch. It's coming up next.
Meshach Taylor from Designing Women with more startling proof that real men love designing women. Now, Bart, it says here that you're a lumberjack and that you like to wrestle bears for fun.
Yep, and I can chop down a tree with one hand.
You can swing an axe with one hand?
No axe, just my hand.
And you love to watch Designing Women?
Yep, I'm proud of it.
So why are you sitting in the dark?
My wife told me to wait here.
Real men love Designing Women. Coming this fall to WAVY TV 10.
At least it's comfortable. I'll have the comfortable forecast coming up at 11.
That's the exterior and now the interior of the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, the concluding night of the Republican National Convention. The Republicans are right on time tonight. They want to get their President of the United States before a national television audience in the heart of prime time for the speech that he will be making to this audience, to the country, and he hopes to his future as well. We want to talk about what lies ahead in terms of the political battleground, which you can expect to see beyond the speeches, beyond the rhetoric, beyond the platforms. In 1988, George Bush won 426 electoral votes in 40 states. In 1984, Ronald Reagan won 525 electoral votes. He won 49 states. In 1980, Ronald Reagan won 489 electoral votes, and he won 44 states. No one expects that this time it will be a blowout for either side of those proportions. And almost everyone agrees, Republican and Democrat alike, that a lot of the battle this time will be in the industrial Midwest, which has been hit so hard by this long, historically dark recession. We want to talk about some of that tonight with Republican Party strategists, beginning right at the top, Lisa Myers with Bob Teeter. Lisa?
Thank you, Tom, very much. Mr. Teeter, you're a veteran now. This is your 7th straight Republican presidential campaign. This election, as you say, may well be decided in the industrial Midwest. What is the single most important thing you'd like someone sitting in their living room in your home state of Michigan tonight to take from the president's speech?
Well, I think that there's such a sharp distinction between where he and Governor Clinton would take this country in the next 4 years. We've had these remarkable changes around the world in the last 3 years. Everybody understands now the real test for this country is how we can compete in the world over the next 5 or 10 years. And there's such a sharp difference between the economic direction the president would take the country and Governor Clinton would. And that's what we really want to focus on.
What's the single most important difference in your view as far as those voters in the Midwest are concerned?
Well, there's a very fundamental difference into whether you really want to manage the economy with the federal government and whether you want to raise taxes and whether you want to have increased spending, or whether you really want to try and lower taxes and you want to stimulate the economy through more incentives for savings and investment, the kind of things that really do create jobs. And the biggest single difference, I think, is the things the president's going to talk about tonight are the things that have been proven works, and the things that Governor Clinton has talked about are the things we've proven over 30 years fail.
But with all due respect, Mr. Teeter, doesn't the president have a credibility problem when it comes to the issue of taxes? After all, 4 years ago, he promised not to raise taxes, and then he raised them.
I don't think he'll have any credibility problem after he gives this speech tonight at all. He'll address the last 3.5 years. He'll talk about the next 4 years. And I think it'll be very clear and concise, the difference between where they'd take the country.
Thank you very much,
okay.
Bob Teeter. Back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Lisa. Bob Teeter, who's the president's chief pollster and one of his principal strategists as well. Tomorrow, another bus tour on the part of Bill Clinton and Al Gore. They'll be starting in Ohio, working their way through Pennsylvania and the industrial areas of upstate New York. They'll also be spending a lot of time during the course of this campaign in the state of Michigan, now presided over by a Republican governor, John Engler, who's there with NBC's Andrea Mitchell. Andrea?
Right, Tom. Michigan is so important that, in fact, Bill Clinton is there tonight and will give a speech there tomorrow. That's because, first of all, unemployment is 9.4%, Governor. People in your state really care about jobs more than they do about social issues. How does George Bush have to do tonight to bring back the Reagan Democrats in your state and to appeal to them on the pocketbook issues?
Well, I think he's got to talk about the future tonight. I think he's going to do that. He's got a tax reform agenda, a regulatory reform agenda that's going to be part of a second term, and he's got to talk about that in the campaign. Got to draw the contrast. Bill Clinton on cafe stands alone would cost 40,000 auto workers their jobs.
You're talking about the auto emission standards.
Absolutely. That's going the wrong direction. And interest rates are low. Inflation's under control. Jerry Ford made some of those points tonight. And I think that we've got to, in the fall campaign, be very aggressive in contrasting ourselves and talking about the opportunity that lies ahead. With a Congress that's radically changed, 150 new members are going to be enacting somebody's agenda. It better be George Bush's.
Well, if the economy is really the issue in Michigan, doesn't George Bush, as Lisa Myers was just asking Bob Teeter, who is a Michigan, Detroit resident, doesn't he have some credibility problems with that because of the way the economy has just been stifled for the last 4 years?
Well, there's certainly, I think, an electorate out there that wants to assess some responsibility. Michigan, interestingly enough, has the highest percentage of our congressional delegation already not coming back. So there's a punishment being inflicted right now. And I think the president's in the position to make a very persuasive case that the voters are correctly identifying who's really at fault.
And what we're seeing so far in the initial polling that's coming out of this convention is a trend back toward George Bush, but primarily in the South and among the conservative base, but not in the Midwest. So the Reagan Democrats still aren't back with him.
Oh, it'll take a while. We've got a major tax cut initiative that's on the ballot in Michigan, for instance, in November. That's going to be helpful. It also helps to frame the debate between the parties. And you've got Clinton for $150 billion in higher taxes. The president tonight talking about cutting taxes. That's a great contrast. That's a wedge in places like Macomb County because they know that the cost of doing business is an impact on how many jobs we're going to have.
Okay, thank you very much, Governor John Engler. Back to Tom.
Andrea, before we let the governor go, why don't we ask him whether he thinks that President Bush will be talking a lot about the new North American free trade agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico when he campaigns in Michigan.
Good point. Will the president be talking about that new North American free trade agreement in Michigan that is not very popular with a lot of people in the auto industry? What is your assessment of how